Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Furious Wrestling Fan channel. I am the Furious Wrestling Fan. I am Dwayne Rothman, and right now we are reviewing the 2020 Royal Rumble, the first pay-per-view of the new year and of the next decade. I'll be honest with you, right off the bat, I was not looking forward to this pay-per-view one bit. There are several reasons for that, and I will touch base on some of them as we go along. But either way, the 2020 Royal Rumble, I sit down at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and prepare myself for another marathon of bullshit, as WWE typically likes to give us. So, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I tune in to begin watching the pre-show for the 2020 Royal Rumble. And it's being that, once again, it is one of the big four. Just like Survivor Series, they have to have another goddamn 2-hour pre-show. And if I'd be able to keep track of all the stuff that's going on all the time, I wouldn't need to watch the pre-show, period. So there's a part of the pre-show that is alright for those of us that can only watch on a sporadic basis due to your regular home life, work life, whatever, to kind of catch up on some things. But all of the dissection from the panel of every single little thing for 2 hours, it's too much. I'll touch on that in a minute. So we're going to jump right into it. Here we go with the pre-show. A couple other little things here real quick. I'm sorry. But a couple of the reasons why I wasn't looking forward to this Royal Rumble is being that NXT is now basically your third brand. I was kind of worried about the NXT involvement. Now, again, I understand that they're a third brand. They're having this thing against another promotion and deem it necessary to put NXT on a pedestal. And NXT was put on such a pedestal at Survivor Series, I was afraid it was going to happen again here. And because we have three full-on brands now, one of my other worries is that we were going to get no surprise entrants in the Rumble matches, at least in the men's Rumble match anyway. I was very, very worried, because that was one of the things why I think myself and a lot of people really started tuning into the Royal Rumbles over the past several years, is to see what surprise entrance you're going to get. And so I feel and was worried about that was going to be missing out of this because of the NXT involvement. So, with that being said, we'll move on. We go from our panel down to the floor where they have a secondary group of people, a secondary panel of some sort, with Booker T, Renee Young, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. Why the fuck is Sam Roberts there? All he's doing is taking up space. He doesn't add anything. His little bitch ass, I'd like to slap him. I don't want to see Sam Roberts no more. Let Booker T, who knows what the fuck he's talking about, talk. Let Renee Young, who's been around for quite a while, doing commentary, that sort of thing. Let her do the talking. Sam Roberts, go fuck off a cliff somewhere. Okay? Just leave and get the hell off my screen. So the little B team thing, and then they did go to a cool little video package, and they do this every year for the Royal Rumble, mind you, about the statistics of the Rumble matches. Talking about how many competitors have entered the Rumble matches over the years, that sort of thing. And so that was a nice little package that they did there. But by the end of that package, they started to ruin it by talking about Block Loser. once again, don't correct me. I know what I'm saying. I know what he is, and that's what he's going to be called from henceforth out. So they start talking about blockhead, block loser, and I went from caring about a little bit of the Rumbles, at least particularly the women's, not so much the men's, because I was worried about it becoming the block show. Okay? And once we get to that fucking match, which was a whole nother fiasco in and of itself, I will touch base on that again. So, we go back to that little, B announce panel thing, whatever the hell they're supposed to be. And Renee Young decides to ask about the strategy. What strategy should you have going into the Rumble match? And Sam Roberts fucking standing there talking like he knows something. And this is what I have a problem with. He's never once stepped into a ring. Now, mind you, neither has Renee Young, at least not to my knowledge. But again, she's at least been around it. She's been around WWE for quite a while now. Sam Roberts talking like he knows something. Like, I mean, if that's the case, why don't you get in the fucking ring then, Sam? Let somebody slap the shit out of you for a little while, and then you might have a right to speak on one of these fucking shows. Okay? So, we get a nice package from the little feud going on between Becky Lynch and Asuka. And after that, I was starting to look forward to that a little bit. We got something about on one of the Raws where the Viking Raiders lost the tag titles to Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. So it looks to me that they're already beginning to bury the damn Viking Raiders. I think it was even on the last pay-per-view, the TLC, where they didn't even have challengers for the tag titles, and so they had to have some kind of open challenge at that fucking show just to drop them to Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins on a Raw for apparently no reason. So that's what's going on apparently with that. They go to talking about Lacey Evans and Bayley and their SmackDown Women's title match. They're putting over Lacey Evans like crazy. They won't stop talking about her, even though she's the challenger in this scenario. Bayley, with, her new look and her new attitude, talking about being overshadowed and overlooked. Well, they did it here too with Lacey Evans. Even though Bayley's the champion, they didn't really talk about her much. It was all about Lacey. So you can kind of see some writing on the wall there coming up in the future. We go to our first match, and it's Sheamus versus Gable. I'm not gonna do this Shorty G thing. I'm just not gonna do it. This is Sheamus' first match back, apparently after being gone for so long, injuries, I believe it was. Jump right into this match, and you get a little bit of back and forth, some headlocks and some takeovers, a little bit of chain stuff going on at first, but Sheamus eventually just starts shrugging it off. Sheamus, he was working on the left hand, not even the arm so much, just the hand of Gable there for a little while. It was pretty one-sided too. Gable was able to kind of turn the tables a little bit, start working on one of the legs of Sheamus. Gable was able to get in that nice, rolling like deadlift German suplex. Wasn't able to quite get all of the momentum I think he'd probably be looking for, but Sheamus is considerably bigger than Gable, so but he still was able to pull it off nonetheless. So that was all right. We get a brogue kick, a kick out. Then we see Sheamus going for the brogue kick once again. He misses. Gable rolls it up into the ankle lock. He kind of gets shoved off. A brogue kick again, and Sheamus wins. The whole thing, I didn't have a lot of expectation going into this match. Never been much of a Sheamus fan, and as far as I'm concerned, they've just completely buried Gable a long time ago. So I didn't really think that there was really going to be anything to this. There was no reason for it. There was, it wasn't going to amount to anything. I really could have cared less. But when it was all said and done, both guys they were working a limb. They were working a body part. They looked like they had some game plans, and it was executed, I think, fairly well. So by the end of it, it wasn't a bad match. So I was kind of surprised about that. Not a whole lot really to say about, negatively about this. It was what it was. Of course, Gable loses again, but that was kind of a foregone conclusion as far as I'm concerned. So Sheamus wins in the first match of the pre-show. We go right from that to the next match on the pre-show for the United States Championship, and once again it is Andrade, who is the United States Champion now, against Humberto Carrillo yet again. And I believe it was on the Survivor Series pre-show where they had a match, and I nitpicked it and kind of took the piss out of it quite a bit. I wasn't a fan of it. So already, as soon as they came to the ring, I really wasn't looking forward to this. I was expecting another rehash of the same damn match that they already had, because it seems like that's the kind of matches that these types of competitors have. We start off at the very beginning, very fast-paced, move for move, kind of back and forth, but finally Andrade does take control. And when he does, he starts working over Carrillo a little bit, and he slows the pace down. It slows it down quite a bit, mind you, which I didn't mind at all. Not one bit. Because in their Survivor Series match, things were 100 miles an hour throughout the entire thing. At least that's how I remember it anyway. So see him slow it down and work a little bit of a game plan and that kind of thing. I was definitely fine with that. Andrade working the left arm of Carrillo for a little while. You're just kind of working him over. Finally, Humberto does start coming back, but then he's flying around all over the damn place. Now, there's a couple guys throughout history that were kind of known for this kind of thing. But this guy, I still don't know who the hell he is. Okay? And for him to be just jumping around, flying around all over the place, doing a lot of this in a very short sequence, mind you. It was too much. It was too fancy. I really could have... To speed it up a little bit, I think would have been fine, but if this guy's on the offensive, he's in the air somewhere. It's like he can't do anything else, so I got real bored real quick. There was a little bit of a strike exchange following some of this fancy nonsense. And then, just like in their damn Survivor Series match, this one was going too long. They were doing things to each other back and forth. You start seeing no selling of some of the strikes. At one point, they're getting up on the top rope, and it's blatantly obvious that they're working together, just trying to help balance it each other. I understand it to a certain degree, but if you can't do it in a convincingly enough fashion to where it looks like you're trying to gain the upper hand, and just instead of working together to make this balancing act happen, don't fucking do it. So they were obviously working together. There's a big top rope hurricane rana by Humberto. But when it's all said and done, Andrade ends up rolling up Carrillo, and he wins. The match started out okay. Once the quick pace to start out, kind of feeling each other up, I can get with that. But then once they slow the pace down, I was still into it. But then as soon as the chaos began to ensue about halfway through, it kind of lost me. It started okay, and it was all downhill from there. So with that being said, we go back to the panel on the floor with Goofball Roberts, Booker T, and Renee Young. R-Truth comes out, and in typical R-Truth fashion, he don't know what the hell he's doing, and he does it all for comedic value and entertainment value. And he says he's going to go to the ring. It's the Royal Rumble, even though the Rumble match hasn't even started yet. And he even said apparently at some point he wasn't going to be in the Rumble match, but he's going to go to the ring for the Rumble match anyways. And, you know, just, you know, he was going to Sioux Falls City when he got attacked by Brock and, you know, stuff like that. You know, R-Truth doing R-Truth things and being entertaining while he did it. So it was all right. So now we've covered several things on the pre-show. We've had the 2 matches on the pre-show. And we start doing a lot of recapping on the pre-show. And, oh boy. Guys, let me tell you something. The 2-hour pre-show to me is not necessary. I don't care what the hell show it is. But once we had these 2 matches and we start going into all this recap, I was getting very bored. And to be honest, I was getting kind of tired. I felt like I was starting to fall asleep. I felt like what they should have done at least is maybe put a little more recap stuff in between the 2 matches that we got on the pre-show. Break it up a little bit, because there had to have been half hour to 45 minutes of nothing but recap shit, and I was slowly losing my mind. It was hard to continue watching the show at that point. So right before the pre-show goes, I guess, off the air, they start talking about the Men's Rumble match. And they're talking about block loser over and over and over and over again. And let me tell you, I got real sick and tired of this real fucking quick. Okay? I'm so tired of hearing about blockhead. And this didn't help matters none, and it definitely didn't help with my fear of how this was going to go later in the night. But finally, the pre-show had come to an end, and I was damn near asleep. So we move on to the main show. And the show opens with the Falls Count Anywhere match between King Corbin and Roman Reigns. And Reigns is the first one to start coming to the ring, and his entrance takes about a year to happen. Once again, with all of the, you know, the very long recap stuff, and between, you know, and his entrance taking forever, I was getting more and more bored and tired by the second. I was really ready for this show to start doing something at this point. So finally Reigns gets there, Corbin comes down, and before Corbin can get off of his high horse there, the match takes place on the floor when Reigns jumps out of the ring, attacks a couple of his guys, and starts attacking Corbin. The match, obviously because of the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation, the idea that they could go anywhere in the building, I think that stipulation sometimes may be kind of hard to pull off. It just kind of depends. It was kind of a slow start. They do go into the crowd, and once you go into the crowd, obviously you kind of have to be careful with what you're doing. You hit a fan, you know, let alone a grown adult, but if you're swinging your arms, or if you're falling and stumbling all over the place or something, heaven forbid, like a child's in the way. I mean, they obviously have security trying to kind of clear an area and everything else, but things happen. You know, I'm not saying it did in this. It didn't look like it did, but I'm just saying that being that they went out into the crowd, they have to, you kind of have to be careful with what you're doing. So it really limitates what it is that these guys can do in that scenario and in that environment. They make their way back to the ring. We get a deep 6 by Corbin pretty early. They find themselves back out of the ring. You get a shot with the steel steps from Corbin to Reigns. I thought it kind of funny. The commentators barely even acknowledged that it even happened. Before that would be a big deal. Apparently it's not that big a deal anymore. They wind back out into the crowd. They're just punching each other, moving around from place to place. Not much going on, not much they could really do. They make their way back out of the crowd, back to the ringside area. Reigns gets choke slammed on one of the announce tables. A few moments later, there's another choke slam through a second announce table, breaking this time. 2 count for Baron Corbin there. They wind up back out into the crowd again. They fight their way all the way to where some of the foreign language announcers are. 2 big Samoan drops through 2 different tables from Roman Reigns to Baron Corbin there. At this point, both guys are showing their fatigue a little bit, which to me it was kind of a welcome addition to this sort of match. Seems like anymore, a lot of these guys, they'll do 100 things to each other within the span of about 60 seconds, and nobody's selling anything. There is no fatigue. There's nothing. So just to see these guys, being fatigued from the abuse that they had been taking, okay, that's fine by me. At this point, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler interfere when they get to the equipment area. They start beating down Reigns a bit. The Usos even things up. They come in, run some interference. But at this point, I do have a little bit of a problem with this match. Now, mind you, the Usos are trying to level the playing field. Ziggler and Roode have been, beating down Reigns and really causing Reigns some grief in these matches with Corbin for quite a while. So I understand the run-in. I understand the interference. But at this point, the actual match stops. And it becomes a fight between the Usos and Ziggler and Roode. So you don't really know where Corbin went. You don't really know where Reigns went. You don't know what's really going on with those 2 guys because the focus now is on the other 4. Finally, we get back to the actual match once some of that brawling comes to a halt. One of the Usos comes off of one of the structures and wipes everybody out, so therefore the actual match can continue. We get a Superman punch, actually a couple of them, to Baron Corbin. One of the running things in this feud is that Roman Reigns keeps getting dog food dumped on him and stuff a bunch of the time and stuff. So Roman Reigns opens out one of the porta potties, one of the outhouses there that are sitting there in the crowd, and the crowd just erupts. They go nuts as soon as he opens the door to this thing. So Corbin gets thrown in. And then Roman Reigns starts wheeling it around. At this point, I was kind of shaking my head on top of being... I don't know. It's kind of hard to say exactly what I was thinking or feeling at this moment because this was obviously staged to be part of the match. It's not like something like, okay, well, the porta potty's here. We're going to incorporate it and we're going to use it in a match as a something that just kind of happens. It's because of the opportunity it arose. No, they start wheeling this thing around because this thing is literally on wheels. Okay, and so it's obvious that it was a part of this thing the whole time. So then Roman Reigns turns over the outhouse. King Corbin then rolls out of the porta potty completely clean. Obviously, you don't want to be using an actual porta potty that's actually being used for this. That's very gross. But we've seen time and time again in WWE history where they'll use some things to make some nasty stuff look like some pretty nasty stuff. So I feel like they probably could have gimmicked this thing to have something in it to make it look like it may have been able to be in use. It just, to me, the fact that it was on wheels, it gets tipped over and he rolls out of the thing completely clean. It just, at that point, I felt like the whole point of using this in the match to kind of, I guess, get back at Corbin for the dog food thing was absolutely pointless. There was no point to it. if all that was the case. So anyway, once this happens, I'm really wanting this match to end now. Okay, because I feel like at this point, unless they go to the ring and do some other things or something, I don't know what else they can really do with this, I guess, like PG era of WWE programming that we're getting, even though it is a pay-per-view. Like, what more can they really do? So I was really wanting them to just end this match already by this point. We end up at one of the dugouts because obviously where they are at, it is a baseball field. Okay. They make their way to the roof of one of the dugouts, and there's a couple chair shots by Baron Corbin, but essentially, when it's all said and done, we get a spear from Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns gets the 3 count and the win. To be honest, with how they did it, with the exception of the porta potty thing, which I felt had no purpose with how it was done, I don't really necessarily feel like it was a bad match. I think that it was one of them things that I feel like they probably did the best they could with it, with what they are allowed to do nowadays. So with the platform that they were given, I think they did the best they could with what they were given. I do think it was way too long. It was way too long, especially for the opening match of the show. Now, if they would have done this match a little later in the card, maybe, then I feel like, you know, it would have been okay. Because I guess I'm kind of stuck in the mentality of, the more important matches go longer because they have more meaning and therefore they're later on in the night. So I feel like if this was a little later, it would have been fine. But for the opening match of the show, it was way too long and really wasn't quite necessary. But either way, when it's all said and done, Roman Reigns is victorious. So we go backstage, and I guess Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens have this sort of alliance, sort of not kind of thing from what I got out of this. But they really didn't talk about much. They were just talking about, being in the Rumble match later and, watch your back and that's gonna, it was real quick. It didn't really, I guess, have a whole lot of reason to be there and didn't serve too much of a purpose, but it is what it is. We get another little interview with Fire and Desire, which is Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. And what I didn't understand about this is that in this little interview, Sonya Deville basically says if it came down to her and Mandy Rose, she would eliminate herself so that Mandy could be the winner, because that's how much her friendship means to Sonya. And all I could do is sit back, shake my head, and go, what? You would eliminate yourself? If you can win the Rumble match, you go on to a championship match at WrestleMania. It's the whole purpose and the point of the Royal Rumble match. I understand your friendship. But both of you, I would think you would have an understanding that if it came down to it, only one of you can go to WrestleMania, fight it out. The fact that you were just going to blatantly say, yeah, I just eliminate myself at that point, why the fuck are you even in the match to begin with? Because if you're not going into the match to win it, there's no reason for you to be there. Okay, so I didn't understand that whatsoever, and I was just very confused about the fact that was even a thing. So moving on. Now we get the first Royal Rumble match of the night. This is the Women's Royal Rumble match. And I believe this is only the third Women's Rumble match in history. We start out with Alexa Bliss at number 1, Bianca Belair at number 2. And already, we get an NXT competitor at number 2. And this is kind of the thing that I was kind of talking about. Now, again, mind you, I understand NXT being involved in the Rumble match and that kind of thing. And I'll touch base on this again here in just a few minutes because it, the pedestal thing for NXT is the whole point of this here. So I'll touch base on that just a little bit. The match starts off Bliss, Belair, back and forth, teasing elimination. No go. We finally get number 3, which is the surprise entrant, Mighty Molly Holly, returning with her Mighty Molly gimmick. She comes in, a little bit of fighting going on. She gets a decent looking crossbody on both Bliss and Belair. 4th entrant, Nikki Cross. House of Fire, real quick, coming in. Obviously, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, kind of a team, so there's a little bit of teamwork going on there. 5th, we get Lana. And Lana takes her sweet-ass time walking to the ring, and she's trying to talk shit. Not very good at it, in my opinion. And so, by the time she even got to the ring, even if I was remotely interested in this match, I was kind of bored already. So she finally gets in the ring, starts doing a couple little things. But then number 6, Mercedes Martinez. And I was under the impression that she was signed to AEW because I thought, and I could be wrong, I don't watch hardly any AEW, but I did watch a couple things here and there, especially at the very beginning, and I thought that I saw her there, so it was my understanding that Mercedes Martinez was in AEW, but apparently not the case. But she comes into the ring, she's looking pretty decent, looking good. Finally, we get number 7, Liv Morgan, and obviously because of the, I guess, inline feud, rivalry storyline thing between Liv Morgan and Lana, she goes straight for Lana. A little bit of a cat fight, and essentially Lana is the first eliminated, and Liv Morgan shortly follows because of Lana. So first 2 eliminations there. Number 8, Mandy Rose goes straight for Nikki Cross. Apparently there's a little something going on between them. Number 9, Candice LeRae. Mandy Rose goes to get eliminated, and this whole thing about both feet touching the floor to be eliminated comes into play here, because as she goes over the top and rolls off the apron, she lands on the far side, and you don't see it right away. But then when the camera kind of cuts over, we realize that she lands on top of Otis, who's laying on the laying on the ground, laying on the mat, and so therefore Mandy Rose's feet didn't touch the floor, and therefore Otis from Heavy Machinery saves Mandy Rose from elimination. Now, I don't really know the whole story, but apparently there's a little something going on between Mandy Rose and Otis there. Number 10, Sonya Deville. A little bit of teamwork between Sonya and Mandy, as they probably should. They are, tag team partners. Number 11, Kairi Sane. She's on a roll early, doing some stuff pretty quick. Number 12, Mia Yim. At this point, Alexa Bliss is nearly eliminated, but she uses Bianca Belair's hair, holding onto the hair to stay in. So, interesting little use of Bianca Belair's hair there. Number 12, we get Mia Yim. Number 13, Dana Brooke. And Dana Brooke has always been kind of a jobber, which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think she's better than that, in my opinion. But she was looking pretty decent for a minute. Number 14, Tamina. She comes in and eliminated fairly quickly. I believe it was by Bianca Belair. And this is what I'm talking about with the NXT on a pedestal thing. Now, Candice LeRae didn't get this treatment, but Bianca Belair sure did. She's looking really good. She's eliminated several people at this point. So, at this point, we get number 15, which is Dakota Kai. I guess she's fresh off of a heel turn that happened just the night before. Number 16, Chelsea Green. And all I could ask was, who the hell is that? Because I've never heard of Chelsea Green. I have no idea who the fuck she is. But she gets eliminated fairly quickly, so I guess it really didn't matter. And Belair ends up basically eliminating everybody at this point, and so she's got like 8 eliminations to this point, so she's basically already the I guess Iron Woman, I guess if I can use that term, of this particular Rumble match, with like 8 eliminations or so at this point. Finally, at number 17, Charlotte comes in, and it's one-on-one with Bianca Belair for a few moments. Number 18, we get the returning Naomi, and her hair is all over the place, completely wild, but she's still got the bright color, still feeling the glow. She gets in, she's, flying around a little bit. At 19, we get the Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix, and she's coming in, and she does some stuff. She's looking all right. She's looking good. She gets a crossbody, Naomi somewhere in there gets a crossbody in. At number 20, Toni Storm, and at this point, right around this time, Charlotte Flair finally takes out Bianca Belair. Finally, we get Toni Storm in at number 20. Maybe I've said that already. Anyway, at 21, we get Kelly, and she throws a stink face in there for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. 22. Sarah Logan, and I'm not really sure what's going on with Sarah Logan at the time. I don't know if she's still doing the Viking thing or not, but that seems like that's kind of dying off. She goes in there and just tries to fight, but just gets eliminated, throw out really quick. So I can see the writing on the wall for Sarah Logan. I almost could see that she not re-sign whenever her contract comes up, because they've practically buried her a long time ago. Number 23, we get Natalya, and at this point, we notice Beth is like bleeding from the back of the head. I don't know where that happened or what happened in order to cause that. But she's bleeding pretty good by the time this is all said and done. Number 24, Xia Li. She comes in, showing her striking ability, some dangerous strikes, quick pace. 25, Zelina Vega. 26, Shotzi Blackheart, I think. And once again, who the hell is that? I've never seen or heard of this person before in my life. Naomi nearly gets eliminated, but she jumps out onto the barricade to save herself. Number 27, we get Carmella. And Charlotte goes through the ropes, so I can already see where that's going here in a little bit. 28 is Tegan Nox. And then 29, Santina Marella. And WWE, why did you feel the need to put this fucking clown into this Rumble match? I don't understand the point of this at all. This was so stupid. This was so dumb. And he walks in there. This is Santino, obviously. Walks in there and gets in Beth's face. And then by the time that happens, Natty shows up. And it's, the two of them against Santina. Santina reaches into his bra and pulls out that stupid Cobra thing. And proceeds to Cobra strike himself and flop over the top rope, eliminating himself. Like, what the fuck was that? Why was that a thing? Why did they even feel the need to do this? You could have given that spot to literally anybody else. There were many other NXT women that you could have had enter this match. But no, you decided to do this. And it was a waste of space. It was a waste of time. It was so fucking dumb. Please don't ever do this shit again. Okay, please. It was so stupid. Well, finally, number 30, we get the former 2-time NXT Women's Champion, Shayna Baszler. Okay, so now we have all the entrants are in. Naomi, who had saved herself on the barricade, takes the tabletop of one of the announce tables, lays it across the announce table and the steps, walks across it to save herself and get back into the match. We get a heart attack from Beth and Natty as a double team move. But Beth turns on Natalya, and Natalya gets eliminated. Charlotte almost sneaks back in to eliminate Beth Phoenix, but doesn't quite happen. Tried to eliminate Beth and Shayna. Doesn't happen. We get this little standoff between Shayna and Charlotte. But when it all comes down right to it, Beth gets eliminated, and shortly thereafter, Shayna Baszler is eliminated. And out of all the damn women that were in this match and could have used the spot, you give the Royal Rumble match to fucking Charlotte. I felt like this was an okay Royal Rumble match. One of the better women's ones, I think, that I've seen up to this point. Again, it's only the third one, but I think it was doing okay. But you give the fucking thing to Charlotte, and I'm not impressed with that. And I'm definitely not happy with it. There are so many other women that you could have given. You've already gave Charlotte every fucking thing that you could already possibly give her. Was this really necessary? You have 2 women's belts in your fucking company. You could have done literally anything else to give Charlotte a title shot at WrestleMania. That you could have pulled that off in any other way. But you could have used this to catapult another woman, one of these up-and-coming women, into the limelight and into a decent spot, and really, give them a chance to look like they might be able to go somewhere as far as WrestleMania and a championship match. But no, you gave the fucking thing to Charlotte, and as far as I'm concerned, you blew something that you could have used, because Charlotte could have got a title shot, like I said, in some other way for the other title that the winner of the Rumble wasn't going for. So as far as I'm concerned, you took what was a decent Rumble match at that point, and you gave it to somebody who didn't need it. And at that point, it was a complete fucking waste. And, there it is. After this, we go to Baron Corbin backstage. He got a lame little promo thing where he was talking about how Reigns had to have some help to beat him. Obviously, it's a typical heel thing because he's been doing this the whole time against Roman Reigns, so whatever. We move on from that to the very next match. It is the SmackDown Women's title. Bayley defending against Lacey Evans. And again, Lacey Evans has been being built up and built up and built up. And the whole thing with Bayley's attitude of being overlooked and overshadowed, well, even though she's the champion, it's still fucking happening. So I don't blame her for that. And I don't know if that was just supposed to be a part of her character, if that's how she legitimately feels. But I know if I'm Bayley, I'm feeling that way. So they come out of the gate pretty quick. But Bayley ends up faking an injury and gains the upper hand. We get the elbow drop from Bayley. Bayley goes to the ground game using some, headlocks and, kind of arm bars, I think, was in there somewhere. Really keeping Lacey grounded. At one point, Lacey ends up turning the tables. She attempted some kind of springboard maneuver, but fell off the ropes, completely botched that up, so that she kind of just threw herself into Bayley in order to knock Bayley back down to kind of, I guess, keep a little something going. So a little more back and forth, but essentially, and they go to the floor. There's at one point, Lacey's daughter is holding on to her mom's hand, trying to, hold on to her and stuff. Finally, we do get back into the ring, and Lacey does have control. She goes for the moonsault, and it is blocked by Bayley. She gets the knees up. She rolls her up, grabs the tights. Bayley wins. So Bayley retains the title here. I didn't write a whole lot of notes down on this one, and it's, I think, partially because there wasn't a whole lot for me to really nitpick. I think that overall, I think that it was a decent back and forth match. They weren't too slow. they weren't too fast. They had a decent pace. It didn't go too long. And a decisive victory for Bayley, still using the tights, still showing the heelish tactics over Lacey. So, not a whole lot of bad things, if really anything, to say about this match. It was, I think, what it should have been. And it was all right by me. Excuse me. So, at this point, we go to the WWE Universal Championship match. It is a strap match. The Fiend defending against clean-cut Daniel Bryan. And he comes back out, and apparently he's the fucking yes man again, and I don't really give a shit. The people are going batshit, bullshit, apeshit nuts over it once again, as they always have, which I've never understood. But people are feeling it, so Daniel's the yes man once again. The Fiend comes out to the ring. They get ready to start this match, and the first thing I noticed, there was no red light. No red light covering the arena, which was a very good thing because I've complained about that. I think it was in the Survivor Series review, how I hated the red light, and it kind of was distracting to the whole thing. No red light here, so I was happy about that. They strap up, and they begin. We get a quick flurry by Daniel Bryan, but a power bomb from the Fiend ends that in pretty quick fashion. Bryan finally just getting whipped with the belt. The Fiend just laying the leather into Daniel Bryan over and over and over again. You start seeing the welts swell up on Daniel Bryan's back. Bryan gets, put up into the corner. He gets the whole Tree of Woe treatment, and as he's hanging upside down, he gets whipped like crazy some more. Daniel Bryan turns the tide with a quick kick and gets the running knee, and there was a 2 count. Looks like Daniel Bryan could have pulled it off right then. At one point, they make their way to the outside of the ring. The Fiend tries to, shove Daniel Bryan either into the steps or the post, but Daniel Bryan kind of floats in between the bottom rope and the apron of the ring and uses the belt or the strap to pull the Fiend into the ring post a couple times. We get a little bit more fighting. They get to the announcer's table. The Fiend is taking control again, but Daniel Bryan delivers a few low blows and gets a DDT on the Fiend on the announce table. Daniel Bryan grabs the belt himself, the strap, and he starts whipping the Fiend, kind of returning the favor. They get back in the ring. Looks like Daniel Bryan setting up for the running knee, and he gets caught in this running motion into like this running Sister Abigail, and it looked like that could have been it, but nope, only a 2 count. I had to read something here. Daniel Bryan gets in, they called it like the label lock or something. As far as I was concerned, that's just the yes lock, so I don't know if I'm saying that right. But as he's got the submission on, he's got the strap over the Fiend's face, and it looks like the Fiend possibly may be in trouble, but he just kind of escapes. And at this point, by the time he escapes, he kind of takes back control again, and at this point, I'm done with this match. I am a fan of The Fiend, as I've said many times. I've never been a fan of Daniel Bryan, and in this environment, this strap match, I feel like they've basically already done what I felt was about as much as they could do, and so I was ready for it to end now. We get back into this, and we get a running knee again a 2 count for Daniel Bryan. And as Daniel Bryan is trying to psych himself up, he looks kind of goofy, looks like he's having a little seizure or something. But while this is happening, the Fiend stands right back up, no selling anything. We get the mandible claw. They make their way to the corner. Daniel Bryan ends up, like trying to break that hold, draping the arm over the ring post or the ring ropes. But essentially, the Fiend drags him back in, and you get this choke slam mandible claw thing. And the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, retains. And after that, the lights go out, and he disappears. Daniel Bryan refuses medical attention. And so you're getting this sympathetic babyface thing going on here, I guess. He collapses midway up the ramp, but he still doesn't want to be helped. He's going to walk out of the ring or the arena like a man. Whatever. Again, I don't really care. I'm not a Daniel Bryan fan, so whatever. So, I mean, it was an okay match. Again, it was one of them things. I felt like they did the best they could with this strap match stipulation. Again, I think it was beginning to be a little too long, and they were starting to do a little too much by the end of it. And then they finally ended it, I think, before things got a little too overdone. So they should have ended a little bit sooner. But all in all, it wasn't terrible, but the Fiend retains, and there you have it. Next, we have the Raw Women's Championship match: Becky Lynch against Asuka, and we get a package kind of going over the little rivalry. And the whole point of this whole thing is that Asuka beat Becky at the 2019 Royal Rumble, and Becky just never got over it. So they get in the ring, they do, the announcements, and you get some quick action to start, kind of feeling each other out, can't quite get a distinct advantage, missing some kicks, rolling each other up, and, just kind of feeling out their opponents. Becky ends up getting the disarmor on Asuka, but they're kind of tied up in the ropes. Becky follows that up with a missile drop kick. Asuka is able to finally turn it around. We get some strikes, some kicks from Asuka. She follows it up with a Shining Wizard. Finally, we make our way and find them out on the apron, and there's a little exchange there between the two. And then finally, we get this front suplex from Becky to Asuka, but off of the apron straight to the arena floor. And that looked pretty devastating. That seemed like that would have been a pretty nasty bump to take. But still, they continue on with this match, and I gotta say, it was another one of those matches where it had a decent pace. They weren't going too slow. They weren't just all over the place, 100 miles an hour. They were doing okay. We get a leg drop from Becky. You get a 2 count. Asuka was able to regain control at one point. We get a hip attack from Asuka once again out on the apron. Becky kind of gets backed into the ring post there. We get this middle rope rock bottom looking thing from Becky, as Becky's on the middle rope there. They kind of pull Asuka up, and there's a moment where there's like a little hesitation. They're about, falling off the ropes. And again, it was one of those things where there was obvious cooperation between the two to kind of set things up. And one thing that I noticed in one of the replays, as you can look at Becky's face and you can tell she was either counting up or counting down. It was one or the other. It was like 1, 2, 3, telling Asuka get ready to jump kind of thing. So, it was just one of those little thing I noticed, but a little middle rope, like rock bottom kind of thing. Asuka takes control again once we get like a code breaker and then right into an arm bar. She transitions that right into the Asuka lock. Looks like she maybe be able to take the title away from Becky. Asuka with a real stiff kick to the face of Becky, and it looked like the referee was going to stop the match. Becky holds on to the referee's leg, begging him not to stop the match. She says, no, I don't want to I don't want to stop the match. Don't you dare stop this match. She gets kicked again, and we get a 2 count for Asuka. At this point, even though I was enjoying the match for the most part, it was getting to be a little bit much now. Just like in some of the cruiserweight matches, and like even in say the Andrade Humberto match, I feel like you can only be kicked in the face so many times before you're not going to get up for a while. So there were several strikes from Asuka at this point, very devastating strikes, mind you, and just couldn't keep Becky down. She's a fighting champion. Like I get all that. I see what they're trying to go for, but again, how many times can you get kicked in the face? So it was beginning to be a little much for my liking at this point. There was a little quick exchange there, and then you get a reverse DDT by Becky. We get the spot where Becky was getting to be either like whipped into the corner or something and almost hits the referee. She stops. You can tell Asuka is getting ready to use the mist. But before she can, she gets kicked in the stomach by Becky. The mist goes everywhere, and Becky ends up locking on the disarmer, and Becky wins the match and retains the women's title. Once again, I think it was an okay match. For the most part, a decent pace. It was getting to be a little much for me at one point, but overall, it wasn't a bad match. A couple little nitpicks about this is Kairi, Asuka's tag team champion partner, is standing at ringside and was really no factor. I kind of feel like since the Kabuki Warriors, I feel like since they're kind of like the heels in the situation, Kairi should have been somewhat involved, in my opinion, just once, maybe even, and then get even sent out by the referee, just get, ejected from ringside or something. But Kairi was no factor whatsoever. I felt that was a little odd. But once again, one of the only other things I got to say about this is Asuka, once again, I feel like even though she is one half of the women's tag champions right now, I feel like the tag team championships for the women's division really doesn't mean anything. It really hasn't since they brought the titles in. So I really don't think that means much. And I feel like Asuka, once again, is just kind of getting buried. She's never really got, ever since she went to the main roster a couple years ago, she's never got what I feel is her opportunity. So obviously Becky's not going to lose at this moment because there's a bigger plan for her at this point. So I kind of feel like even before the match even started, it was a foregone conclusion that Asuka was not winning this match. But still, I don't know. I wish she would just get her fucking due already. But anyway, the last thing I want to say about this is that I know that in the past couple reviews, I have nitpicked and kind of criticized the women's matches pretty hard. But we had TLC women's matches. We had the Survivor Series women's match and, these kind of things. And a lot of these matches haven't been living up to how good the women's division has become, in my opinion. But every time it was a lot of multiple women in one of these matches, and it just couldn't flow. They couldn't get anything going. Well, between the Raw women's title and the SmackDown women's title matches, again, it was one-on-one, and I felt like they had more chemistry in both of these matches. And it was a lot better showing for what the women's division is capable of nowadays. So I was very happy to be able to see some decent women's matches on this show because it hasn't been looking good for a little bit. I know, as far as I'm concerned, that's just because of the circumstances that they were dealing with. But again, this right here was one of those things that when they go one-on-one and just a regular match, you can really see what they're capable of and what they can do, and they actually get a chance to shine. So some decent stuff here. Street Profits show up backstage, and they're kind of, I guess, trying to hype up the Rumble match. But they're kind of just taking up space and taking up time. No real purpose, rhyme or reason there. Now we get to this damn men's Royal Rumble match. And once I heard that Block Loser was going to be the first entrant in this Rumble match, to be quite honest with you, I didn't even want to watch this damn show. Because I already knew what was going to happen. It was going to turn into the Block show. And that's something that I don't ever want to see. I don't ever want to see this motherfucker any longer than I have to. And they're shoving it down my throat with this. If that is the intention to piss me off by doing this, well, they're doing a great fucking job. Let me tell you that right now. So we start this men's Rumble match, and immediately they tell us that Bobby Lashley and Rusev were supposed to be in this match. But I guess they got in a fight in the parking lot before the show started, and we're no longer going to be in the Rumble match now. So obviously, your first two entrants, obviously number one, Block Loser. Number two is Elias. And at that point, again, I already knew where this was going to go. But when the second entrant is Elias, of all people, they're just feeding him a jobber right off the get. He takes forever to get to the ring, first of all, because he's, singing, as Elias typically does. Called Block a brain-dead gorilla, so I did get a laugh out of that, because that's pretty accurate. But basically, he gets walloped with his own guitar, and he gets thrown out of the ring. Number three, Eric Rowan, gets eliminated like 6 or 7 seconds. 4, Robert Roode, F5, and then he's gone. And then we get a returning John Morrison, and he just gets suplexed over the top rope. So already we're 5 entrants into this goddamn Royal Rumble match, and it is exactly what I feared it was going to be. It's the damn Block show, and I'm already hating this. I knew I would, but I'm getting more pissed off by the second as I watch this bullshit, right? So finally, number 6, Kofi comes in. Kofi runs in, and he's just getting destroyed. Obviously, because that's what fucking happens when they throw Block in the ring. Number 7, we get Rey Mysterio. He walks in and gets completely destroyed by typical Block shit. Fucking German suplexes and, just garbage. Finally, we get Big E at number 8, and he tries to rally Kofi and Rey Mysterio. It's a team of 3, and I had some hope for just a few moments, because we get the 3 finishing maneuvers from all 3 guys. You get the big ending, you get the Trouble in Paradise, you get the 619, and then they're all gone. They're all gone after that. They get the 3 finishing moves. It looks like they can finally get Block out of this damn match, and maybe they could try to salvage this fucking match, but no, he just eliminates all 3 of them, and it's back to just him in the ring again. So I'm getting fired up. Just let me tell you something. I'm gonna hold off on that for just a second. So Cesaro comes in. He is number 9. He walks in and is gone. Just tossed away. More fucking BS. The fans, even at this point, are hating this. Everyone is hating this, just as much as I am. Nobody wants to see this shit. So I thought that it was just a thing that Vince had a thing for Brock, and was just going to hand him anything that he wants at any point that he ever wants it. But I feel like they're doing this shit on purpose, just cramming him down all our throats now. And it's this kind of shit that I've highly considered if this continues past WrestleMania season, this channel may not continue for a little while because I cannot stand to watch shit like this. Number 10, you get Shelton Benjamin. Obviously, him and Block went to college together or something. So he hugs Heyman, he hugs Block, and he just gets thrown out of the ring too, because Block said fuck him too. At number 11, you get Shinsuke Nakamura. He walks in and he has a cup of coffee and leaves. He's gone. Surprise entrant MVP. He gets an F5 and he's gone. So at this point, Block's got like 11 eliminations at this point. Just every single one that's walked into this. At this point, I had the remote in my hands, guys. I had the remote in my hands and I was going to shut this damn thing off. I was that fed up. I was that sick and tired of this fucking show and this fucking match that I couldn't bear to watch any of it anymore. But I wanted to do this review. So against my better judgment, I continue to press on with this. At number 13, we get Keith Lee, who has been getting some momentum, and the fans want to see him. The fans are finally getting excited at this point because Keith Lee is a guy that looks like he actually could stand toe-to-toe with Block, at least physically. So the fans get on their feet, and at one point he actually gets a chance to mow over Block. Number 14, Braun Strowman. He comes in. He's throwing Keith Lee around a little bit. He actually jumps out to the outside of the ring and does that run around the ring and mows over Keith Lee. Even the announcers were kind of like, why would you even do that? Stay in the damn ring. There's kind of no point to that. Exactly. But, essentially, by the time he gets back in the ring and tries to do something else, both Braun Strowman and Keith Lee are sent flying out of the ring. So it's just Block yet again. And here he is, a fucking part-timer that doesn't give a shit to ever be there, who's never on television. He's only there for the money. And here he is with 13 eliminations in this godforsaken match. Number 15, Ricochet comes in, which is completely worthless because you get more Block shit. He just throws Ricochet around for a bit. Number 16, we get Drew McIntyre. And finally, after 16 participants have come into this ring and 13 of them are already gone, a low blow by Ricochet, a Claymore kick, and it sends Brock Lesnar over the top rope, and this fucking guy is finally eliminated. After half of this damn match is already done and over with. So I was really hoping that at this point, since the first half of this Royal Rumble match has been the absolute worst that I've ever seen in my life, maybe, just maybe, there might be one little bit of glimmer of hope that they might be able to salvage something out of this, but only time was going to tell. So, at number 17, The Miz comes in, but he gets eliminated pretty much right away. Number 18, we get AJ Styles. Number 19, Dolph Ziggler. And at this point, Ricochet, Miz, and Styles are pretty much all eliminated because Drew McIntyre's tossing all them out. So as I was hoping that we'd get an actual Royal Rumble match here, it started turning into like Blockhead match 2.0. With Drew McIntyre here, because again, at this point, there's hardly anybody getting able to stay in the ring. This really is turning out to be the worst Royal Rumble match in history, period, bar none. There's no arguing it. So, I don't know if I've already said him, but at 19, Dolph Ziggler, but at 20, you get Carl Anderson. Finally, we get basically the only other surprise entrant in this match, and that is the returning Edge. Edge comes out of retirement at number 21 to a big reception and big ovation from the crowd. Edge runs into the ring. He's spearing everybody. He's looking good. Number 22, King Corbin. Number 23, Matt fucking Riddle. This clown walks out to the ring in his goddamn flip-flops. I'm sorry, you walk to the ring in flip-flops, you jump in the ring, you flick them off. I can't take you seriously. I wish somebody would hit him with a truck, too. I could care less if I ever seen Matt Riddle ever again in my life. But luckily, he gets eliminated real quick, so thanks for coming. Don't ever show up again. It'd be fine by me. Number 24, Luke Gallows. And number 25, Randy Orton. And when Randy Orton comes in, we get a little interesting dynamic because we get a rated RKO reunion between Randy Orton and Edge. They're working together a little bit. 26, you get Roman Reigns. 27, you get Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, he runs in, he just starts taking out everybody. Number 28, Aleister Black. He had a nifty little point in there where he was able to strike that black mass on Drew McIntyre. It was beautifully done. Wonderful. I love that. Let's see. At number 29, you get Samoa Joe. And then finally at number 30, Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins comes down with his new group of, himself, Buddy Murphy, and AOP. And we've got a few other eliminations by this point, obviously. But once he gets down there, the entire group just starts taking everybody. They're distracting people. They're pulling everybody around. They're saving Seth Rollins from being eliminated. It really looked like, Seth Rollins was going to win maybe a second year in a row because he had all this help. But finally, Aleister Black, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and somebody else. They were all eliminated in strange fashion because of Rollins and his group. And so they kind of deal with Rollins' group, actually, and leaving Rollins all alone. And once he finally realizes this, there's 5 guys in the ring. It's Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Edge, and Randy Orton, I believe it was. They all basically just take turns and just eventually just, dump Seth Rollins out of the ring, so he will not be repeating wins. Rated RKO working together a little bit. Looked like Randy Orton was going to turn on Edge. Edge caught him in the act and eliminates Randy Orton. We get some fighting between Edge and Roman Reigns. They're both on the apron. It looked like they both might be able to get eliminated here, but it wasn't the case. Roman Reigns gets the upper hand, and he eliminates Edge. Finally, we get a big Claymore kick from Drew McIntyre. He sends Roman Reigns out of the ring, and he is your winner. Drew McIntyre wins the 2020 Royal Rumble match, and deservedly so. There was a part of this match that he was in, especially right at the beginning of his portion of the match, I wasn't really caring for. But once you think about all the things that he'd been through, he'd had like 13-year career, has never once had a title shot, actually got fired from the WWE at one point. So he's worked real hard to get rehired and to get to the spot that he is. I feel like it was all right. It was, deserving for him to win. But I got to tell you, the last, I want to say, quarter of this match was the only decent part of the whole match. The rest of it was absolute shit. The literal first half of this Rumble match was all the block show, and that was what I was worried about, and it's exactly what we got, and I damn near couldn't finish it. This is not one of those Royal Rumble matches that I will ever go back to watch ever again. And it's unfortunate because I feel like for such a big moment in Drew McIntyre's career, if there's anybody out there that's like me, which I would think there'd be quite a few, they'll never want to watch this fucking steaming pile of shit ever again because of how it was done. There really was like two separate Royal Rumble matches here. And only the second half of the second half was any good. So, with that last part aside, this to me goes down literally as the worst Royal Rumble match in history. And to be honest with you, I really want to actually even be more pissed off about it than what I am. But after watching this fucking 6 or 7 hour damn show or whatever it was, however long it was, I don't really have the energy for that right now. We got what we got, and I knew what we were going to get, and it was what it was. Overall, I feel like the 2020 Royal Rumble wasn't a horrible show. The pre-show one of the pre-show matches, Sheamus and Gable, was decent. Humberto and Andrade was okay. A lot of the same crap that they had already done. Corbin and Reigns wasn't terrible. I've seen worse. The women's Royal Rumble was a decent one, with the exception of the fact that Charlotte won the whole damn thing. SmackDown women's title match was decent. The Universal title match was decent, for the most part. The Raw women's title was pretty good, very decent, very good match between the two of them. So really, the only real thing dragging this show down is the men's Royal Rumble match. That the men's Royal Rumble match, as far as I'm concerned, is easily the worst part of this entire show, and sadly, it was the last thing that we saw. So, which all in all might not have been necessarily a bad thing, I guess, when I sit here and think about it for a second. Because if it would have been one of the first things, I don't know if I could have continued on with this fucking show. So, overall, I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting this Royal Rumble event to be as good as it was. It still isn't the best by any means. But it didn't let me down as much as I was expecting. So, I had that going for it. With that being said, I'm not really going to drag things out too much longer. There's not really much else to say here. So, thank you guys for tuning in, listening to me rant, and, listen to my review of the 2020 Royal Rumble. We are on the road to WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen. Charlotte, obviously, once again, going to be going for a damn belt, like she really needs it. And Drew McIntyre is going to get a chance to get a championship match. And being how things unfolded in the Rumble match, it's pretty likely that he's going to end up going after Brock Lesnar, Brock Loser at WrestleMania. So I'm making my decision on that. That's probably how that's going to go. But there we go. We only got a couple more months, and WrestleMania will be upon us once again. And until the next event or the next time I get extremely angry about something, and I just need to go off on an enraged rant. Until next time, guys, once again, thank you for joining me. I am Dwayne Rothman, and I am the Furious Wrestling Fan.